broad curriculum, which basically is when you can choose every year we designate a certain course and say this course is optional. And you can either take this course, which is an engineering course, or you can take any other course designated broad curriculum around the university, which could be philosophy, psychology, archaeology, film studies.
So could I do French as an extra subject?
Yeah, well, we already do a language as part of the component, but you could do that, yeah, as a broad curriculum subject. And the idea there is to give people a chance to kind of express themselves a little bit and get a more general skill.
So I'd go in and say I want to do engineering with management, and then
and then when your broad curriculum options come around, you say I'd like to do that course in philosophy or that course in psychology or whatever.
And what are the chances of what you want to do? Like, is it just...
Well, there would be a list of broad curriculum courses, and honestly, off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you everything, but every school has to offer them. So philosophy would offer a course in philosophy. Now, you have to recognise you're qualifying as an engineer, so you're not going to obviously be spending 100% of the time philosophizing. I think what your dad is probably driving at is more what employers want is they want rounded people. And doesn't mean people my shape, they just want people who have an ability to think in a broad way. They're not just, give me an equation and I can solve it. They want people to be able to think, what are the implications of this? And, how am I going to motivate this person to work harder, and how am I going to negotiate a strong deal with that supplier, and what's the risk of, currency, what's the risk of the euro going bust, because that's going to affect whether we build a manufacturing plant. And people have to have that ability to think at that level. So the nature of an engineering degree like that already ticks a lot of those boxes. Despite what I talked about synthesis and analysis, you have to be thinking broadly, and the engineering management even more so, because you're sitting in classes, doing classes and working on projects with business students and students from management studies and statistics students and law students. So you by its nature have to be able to deal with those problems. But if you have specific interests, like say you said I want to do some philosophy, then you can do that under the broad curriculum as well.
And for the engineering management, would I be able to go from that into aeronautics after that?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we have the figure I showed there, about 30% of engineering graduates as a whole go into postgraduate work. We would have about 40% in the engineering management, and some of those would go into the aeronautical sector.
Okay.
So
and for the engineering with management, do they do Erasmuses as well?
We have two things. First of all, the engineering management is a newer program. Okay, so 2000 was our first intake. So we don't have a mature Erasmus program in the same way that the general engineering does. What we have done now is we have what's called a Unitec program, which is pretty much the same, where you can go to any one of a large number of countries in Europe. So, for example, we had somebody last year who went to Barcelona. And the format of that is you spend 6 months in a university and 6 months with an employer. So he went to Barcelona for 6 months in the University of Barcelona, and then he went to Liechtenstein for 6 months working in a company, and now he's come back here for his 5th year. So it's quite possible. It's not called Erasmus. Getting the French 5 year. Yeah, yes, you can.
Do you have to be getting certain grades?
To do that?
Yeah, is it maybe like 12%?
It is competitive in the sense that we only have a limited number of places. That having been said, to date our problem has been convincing enough Irish students to go abroad. Those who do love it and generally do very well, but a lot of people like to stay at home with their mums. We get lots of people coming over here, and it's supposed to work on an exchange basis, so we're kind of shaking the trees to get people to go over there, and people are knocking our door down to come in. So if and when that changes, then yes, it might kind of get quite competitive in terms of grades. At the moment, pretty much anybody who wants to go can go, but you have to pass your exams, which is not easy. You have to work hard to do that. But I definitely recommend you go over to the printing house and just have a look at the displays and talk to people. Do you have a map there? Yeah. Anybody wearing the green T-shirt there is either a current student on one of the programs. So where we are at the moment is here, the Lloyd, and the printing house is there.
Okay.
So you basically, when you walk out this building, you turn left and then left again and follow that trail, and it'll take you all the way down there. But inside there, it's a relatively small building, and just straight inside the door, there's about 6 stands, one for each of the departments, and there'll be displays there, and there'll be There'll be staff members there, but there'll also anybody in the green t-shirt is a student. So they're either an undergraduate student or there's somebody doing postgraduate work like that, and they'll be able to tell you about what the program is like. And
Oh, and the
Reading this thing by them, women in engineering scholarships. I was just wondering, is this something run by them or is it in college?
why is it the Dell scholarships?
Women in engineering.
it's Jaguar and
They've created graduate bursaries for a degree as well as a salary last year in placement.
Where did you pick this up? Right, I know Jaguar are over today trying to recruit some of our graduates. I hadn't realised that they had that. So this is Jaguar funding this. So I don't know much about it, to be honest. I'm not sure that they fund it over here. They may, but I don't know.
Yeah,
Like Jaguar Land Rover, obviously.
they're like, are you a graduate? And I was like,
and the engineering with management, is there much chemistry in that?
No. I mean, the same amount as there is in the general engineering degree. So any engineering program anywhere in the world, first year timetable is pretty much the same. You're going to do maths, more maths, applied maths, physics, chemistry, computer science.
Is the chemistry particularly difficult?
I mean, it goes beyond leaving cert level.
I don't do chemistry.
Yeah, no, we would have, I'd say, probably 50% of our intake don't do chemistry. So the assumption is you haven't done it.
Okay.
So it works on that basis. So, you know, if you really don't like chemistry, or yeah, I mean, you might find it difficult, but like, plenty of people get through it, you know. So, and that's the last chemistry you do as such. Now, people ask me often, you know, is there much chemistry, is there much physics, or is there much maths? Like, in first year, you have a subject called maths, you have a subject called chemistry, and a subject called physics. But I mean, when you go to the shop and you buy a bar of chocolate, and you know somebody gives you the wrong change, and you tell them, like, you're doing maths, but you call that maths. You know, what I'm saying is, like, maths is a tool that you use there in your everyday life. We use maths as a tool, we use physics, chemistry as kind of tools as well. So you don't directly do anything called chemistry after that. But we would, like, for example, material science, there's elements of that would depend on things you would learn in chemistry.
Okay.
Yeah. Sure, yeah.
thank you. Thank you very
Okay,
much.
so definitely stop into the printing house anyway. How are you?
Fine. I'm trying to go for management and design.
Yeah.
And I don't do chemistry and physics.
Okay.
But I'm pretty good at maths. I do high level, and I usually get A1, Z2.
Okay.
But I'm interested in designs and mathematics,
Yep.
solving problems.
Well, we would have probably 50% of our students don't do chemistry before they come in, and probably 30% don't do physics. So, you know, the assumption is that you don't do chemistry and you don't do physics. So we teach from junior cert level essentially. So it's quite possible. I mean, if you're smart enough to get into college and you're prepared to work, you know, reasonably hard. I'm not talking about 24 hours a day, but, you know, just do a reasonable amount of work, you won't have a problem getting through it just if you're organised. If you're interested in the design side of things, then, I mean, when you say, like, do you have like product design, or is it designing big buildings, or
Everything. I love designs. I do love art and construction.
Okay, well, I mean, all engineering involves design to some extent, because engineering is about solving problems. Now, that design is manifested differently. So if you do, say, computer engineering, it's designing a piece of software. That's a design process, but you don't have something to hold in your hand, and you have a computer program. But, I mean, it is creative and it is designed. If you're as a civil engineer, you might be designing a solution to enable you to, you know, build a longer bridge, or, you know, a road that doesn't, you know, wear away as quickly. That's design. But a lot of people, when they talk about design, they think about product design. You know, I'm designing a new car, I'm designing a new mouse, or a new shape for a microphone, or something like that. And that tends to be more, say, the manufacturing related design. So that would be either doing the general engineering degree and moving into mechanical manufacturing engineering, or doing the engineering management degree, where you're based.
So it's like it's a bit different than like just manufacturing design, like items. and thus.
Well, as I say, all engineers are involved in design to some extent. So, but if you're interested in kind of tangible design, then products and things like that's more manufacturing engineering related. So that would be, either the mechanical manufacturing stream in the general engineering or the engineering management stream. You do a lot of that. So, have you been over to the printing house to look at the displays there?
No, I
No,
don't.
okay. You should probably just call in there and have a look. There's a lot of examples there of some, say, products that students are designing or working on. Anybody wearing a green T-shirt is an undergraduate or postgraduate student, and they'll be able to talk to you about what it is they're doing.
Where's the